I am amazed with what just happened. So did you know that it was recently reported that the Avalanche ETFs actually saw their first inflows in this month? And of course, I'm talking about the month of May because that's when I made this video. However, I first want to clarify, nothing I say is financial advice. I'm not telling anyone to do anything. This is just purely my perspective. However, even besides that, again, I saw this recent statistic indicating how on May 11th, actually, more than 500,000 in terms of the dollar amount of net flowed into the industry's three spot Avalanche ETFs in the US. Now, what are those three Avalanche spot ETFs, right? The first one that I want to talk about is AVAX spot Avalanche ETF. That's on NASDAQ. The other one on NASDAQ is, of course, Grayscale's Avalanche ETF. Now, the third one is Bitwise's Avalanche ETF, but that one's on the New York Stock Exchange. So yeah, when I take a look at that right there, this kind of inflow indicated the first day of inflow activity since April 28th. I think that's pretty impressive. And this is according to BSC News, something that they posted. But even besides that, why do I think this is actually pretty fantastic? Why was I amazed seeing this? Well, I think it showcases that even at a time like this, again, AVAX is still below $10 as of right now and still well below $15. AVAX, of course, is Avalanche's native token, and it hasn't really done anything that exciting as of late, but we're still seeing this. What do I think this indicates? I think it could indicate maybe more stability, right? The more that's held through ETFs, the better I think it is. When it comes to a certain project, just take a look at Bitcoin, just take a look at Ethereum, for instance. Take a look at what that has done for it. Now, people like to say, but AVAX, it's never going to come close to Ethereum or Bitcoin. True, but if it could just experience a small glimpse of it, I don't see why it's so bad. And people like to sometimes argue, well, the ETFs, when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum, didn't give it much stability. Well, okay, maybe it's not like stable by many other markets like standards, but for this particular market, I would arguably say that the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF, it kind of helped a lot for it. Has it made it super stable? No, but it's helped, right? So I don't see why it's a bad thing. Much like in the case of Avalanche. And keep in mind, these three spot Avalanche ETFs, they were all announced in this year, in 2026, like when they actually came into fruition, right? In which case, is the timing of that good? No. Second of all, was it the best sentiment ever when they were announced? No. Was AVAX still well below $20 when that was all three announced? Yes. So what does that indicate? It was not an ideal condition for AVAX, but still, we're seeing some activity at least when it comes to those ETFs. And I think if anything, that kind of showcases sometimes what people think about when it comes to Avalanche, right? Some people like to say, oh, it's a forgotten about layer one blockchain, it sucks and all this. But it doesn't seem to be the case maybe for me. And also maybe for these large enterprises, right? Do you think that Bitwise, Grayscale, and as well as Van Eck, do you think they view Avalanche as bad? If they view this project as a bad layer one blockchain, I don't know why they would do that though, right? What they're doing requires capital, in my opinion, requires resources, it requires timing, and it requires effort. And seeing them want to do that when it comes to Avalanche, I think it may showcase something, right? It may showcase that, you know what? They view Avalanche to a certain regard. Or not, why would they do that? That's the thing. I don't think an enterprise would launch an ETF for a certain project for the fun of it if they didn't view it as something that's good. That's just kind of my mindset. Furthermore, AVAX, okay, it's still below $10 currently, but why is that such a bad thing? If Warren Buffett, for whatever reason, was a fan of this, I'm not saying he is, but for whatever reason, if he was, I don't know why he'd be complaining about something being low, because take a look at Berkshire Hathaway when they're acquiring stocks. Like, for instance, take a look at Apple. When they were dollar cost averaging into Apple stocks, were they doing it when it's low or when it's high? I think they were doing it when it's kind of low, relatively speaking, right? That's just kind of my mindset. Some people view like below $10 as a really bad thing when it comes to AVAX. For exiting, yes, I agree. But for dollar cost averaging, like let's say for me, I don't view it as a bad thing. Like, what am I going to do? Dollar cost average only when it's like $30? No, sir. I'm not going to be doing that because $30, I mean, that's like already such a massive journey that has happened at that point. We're over 3 times lower than $30. That's the thing. I'm not going to wait for that, but I'm not telling anyone to do anything. However, if I just want to take a look at it just a little bit farther back in time, let's say in September 2025, yeah, it was around $30. Was September of 2025 considered such a fantastic time? No, it wasn't, right? And we're just so low when compared to that, which I think showcases just how low AVAX has been. We've seen historically in some cases when a project usually is sometimes very oversold, it kind of has this effect where it's kind of like the analogy where you put like a soccer ball or something like that below water, you hold it and then you let it go and then it just goes like whoop, like that. It just kind of launches itself up like that, right? It just kind of feels like that to me sometimes when it comes to a project that's very oversold in some cases, especially for one that already has a big community, has proven fundamentals, and also on top of that, usually already has the track record. Usually some of these projects, when they're very oversold, if the market were to hypothetically pick up, it kind of has that ball underwater effect, like I mentioned before, right? Where you let it go and then the ball just kind of goes up like that really fast. But yeah, besides that point, AVAX as well. Did you know that it's ranked 24th in the world within this space in terms of market cap? Pretty massive. So it's clearly in the top 25. People like to ask me though, well, why would like $30 be such a happy thing? Like they ask me that. Like, why would I be happy when it comes to that? Because, okay, again, we're around 3 times lower than that. You know, it's like, for instance, if I believed in Bitcoin and it returned back to its all time high, it's not 3 times lower than that, right? But I don't need to be looking for a 3x through a microcap either, though, right? That's the thing. Like, I don't need to be looking for that type of stuff through a microcap. For what? Like, I don't need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to become the next Jeff Bezos. No. If AVAX goes back to $30, I'm all good. Like, I don't need to complain about anything else, actually. But if I just want to take a look at things back in December 2024, AVAX was actually around $50. So we're around 5 times lower than that. Over 5 times, actually. So yeah, I mean, either it's like 30 or 50, like between those ranges, like either 30 all the way up to 50, I have zero complaints. Like, I don't even need an altcoin season. This space wasn't experiencing an altcoin season, in my opinion, when AVAX was around $30 or let alone around $50. Did you know when the space actually experienced an altcoin season? Like back in 2021, AVAX was at one point $146 approximately. Like, that's like so massive, right? But, I don't even need it to ever go back to that 30 or 50. I have zero complaints on my end, especially from where it is as of right now. But, that's just kind of my perspective. Not to mention as well, when I take a look at AVAX, people like to say, but no one's going to care about the ETFs when it comes to Avalanche. I think eventually people will care a lot if, let's say, the market were to pick up. But as of right now, things are boring, but usually people ignore a project the most when it's boring, right? When things are not happening. But I want to be more focused because when things are low, sometimes the journey to the ceiling could be quite far in some cases. When it comes to the gas fees, when it comes to Avalanche, 100% of it is burned, keep in mind. However, keep in mind the gas fees were not so much anyways to begin with, so the impact isn't like so drastic. But over an extended period of time, that could matter. That creates a deflationary pressure for AVAX, right? So I think it's actually a pretty impressive thing. Other projects, maybe they burn like 10%, 5%, 2%. In some cases like 20, 30, 40, but 100% is pretty rare. That's the thing. And apparently on Avalanche, 100% of the gas fees are burned. So that's pretty impressive. Like, keep in mind, burn means that it's removed, right? So that's like the supply that's removed. And again, that inherently makes AVAX more rare over time, even though it's incremental, but it could matter, especially over years. But yeah, that's just kind of my perspective as of right now when it comes to this. But I'll be sure to make more updates if there are any moving forward. So hopefully y'all stay tuned for that. I want to say thank you so much for watching. It's Willie the Captain. I'm a peace. Bye.